Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live. Today, we are not doing a plan with me. Today, I am going to be doing a Q&A to talk about the whole home hemodialysis thing, as well as just other stuff in general, too. But this is a special one because we are bringing my husband, Jesse, on board with this one. Now, you all know, if you've been following me for any amount of time, that he loves to kind of wave and pop his head in on things, but he's never really done something like this with me before. So this is going to be exciting. I've got a bunch of questions from Patreon and a bunch of questions from Instagram. And if we get through all of those, then I'll take questions from the chat. So we'll see. I'm going to try and keep this in under an hour. We'll see how it goes. But I'm going to pull up my Instagram questions right quick, and then we will pull Jesse on because I am so professional that I got everything else figured out, but I forgot to pull the Instagram questions up. So that's the last one that I'm going for here at the moment. But yeah, so can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me in the chat? Is everything good? And then on top of that, I wanted to give a quick little bit of context here for those of you who don't know. I have polycystic kidney disease, which is a genetic kidney disease. I've had it for 20 years now. I'm 43. But I went into kidney failure this past year, and because of our schedules and just everything else, we decided that home hemodialysis was our best option as opposed to going to center 3 days a week. And I'm going to be vlogging and talking more about this in upcoming videos. But that's kind of the context of this. We graduated on Friday, and we are now starting tomorrow home dialysis. We've already started today getting some of the stuff prepared. The machines are home, so our big supply load is coming tomorrow. So it's a lot of stuff. Anyway, okay, you can hear me all in the chat. That's awesome. It's good to see you all. Howdy, howdy. All right, I'm going to bring Jesse in, and we are going to get started and just jump into these questions. It's okay if the mic is in frame, but I appreciate the comment. I would rather you hear me than we worry about if I have a little blurb at the top of my head. All right, let's bring him in. Let's go and make sure everything works and I don't make my computer explode. Yay! There's Jesse.
Am I here?
Are you here?
I can
hear you. If everybody, usually there is about a 20 second delay maybe between us and the chat. So if there is that. So, but as long as we know that everybody can see us and everybody can hear us, then we can get started. So,
well, there I am.
There you are.
Caught up to the internet.
All right. So, we'll start with the questions over on Patreon. Number 1 is from Catherine, who asked, "What's going on with the idea that you'll stop peeing?" That is a very good question because I was completely blown away by it when I found out about it. So dialysis it cleans your blood and removes the waste. Well, when your kidneys are failing and you're using dialysis to work for them, as time goes on, they stop peeing. You are now removing all of your pee through dialysis. I'm currently still peeing plenty, but I've already noticed a small amount of reduction in it since starting dialysis. So the more I pee, the less restriction I have on my fluids and on my diet. But as soon as my pee goes down and when I eventually stop peeing, I'm going to be very restricted in how much fluid I can take in on any given day because we have to use the dialysis machine to remove that fluid. And so the more I drink, the more they have to remove, which can be really hard on my body, especially my heart. Yeah. Stopping peeing is normal on dialysis. I'm not sure about PD, which is the other kind of dialysis, peritoneal dialysis. I have heard that you pee longer when you're on PD because it's not working with your kidneys. It's working with your stomach lining, your peritoneal lining to filter everything. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Anita. What is the hardest part of the process that each of you has come to terms with? Jess, do you want to start with that one or do you want me to go first?
Yeah. So for me, the grossest, squickiest part of it was what they call cannulating, which is where you actually put the needles in. I've been diagnosed diabetic now, something like 23, 24 years. And so I expected that to be something easier to overcome. But it turns out actually learning how to connect all the lines, manage Cindy's blood pressure and fluid takeoff, all the sterile environment, everything else was much easier as a wholesome unit than doing the cannulating for me. I think of the things I've gotten down, though, just getting used to seeing like tubes full of your blood is not something that like we really got used to in our relationship before this. So like I think that was a big challenge. Just it feels very clinical. Like I've handled scraped knees and my own like, injuries and stuff. But for some reason, like needles and tubes are like really different than like your kids falling down. And I didn't expect how different it would really feel.
Yeah. For me, probably it's actually like the needles have been a source of stress, but I think the hardest part for me, honestly, is still kind of going on. And that is navigating insurance and Medicare. And trying to wrap my mind around how it all works. And I plan to have a very long conversation with my sister to help me get through it because that's still something I'm working on. Yay, United States healthcare system. Helen asks, any unexpected positive things in the process? Well, actually, somebody in the comments just asked, so I'm going to go with this one first. Jordan wanted to know if I'm feeling better yet because I appear to have more energy and I'm looking good. And that I got my appetite back. And while I knew that I would start to feel a little bit better on dialysis. Last night we went out on a date and I ate all of my dinner for the most part, which is not something that has happened in over a year. And at first I was like, it's just, there's something about being hungry that when you're not hungry, when your appetite is gone for so long, you take for granted how it feels to be hungry. And I am currently like super excited. I did not expect to be this excited about being hungry again.
Yeah, the first day we did dialysis, we were wondering, like, when are we going to start seeing a change? By the end of the week, will we be able to notice Cindy feeling any different? And it's like, the first night we were home and you were laying in bed. You hungry? You want anything for dinner? Like, I was thinking I might just order Subway for the kids and me. And then you were like, yes, I want insert boring sandwich full of too much lettuce here. And then the next day we were leaving dialysis and it was like, hey, you want to like go out for lunch and just like grab a bite? And you were like, yes. And just, I think over the last 4 weeks, that's kind of developed into like some more energy and now you have to catch up with your enthusiasm for like eating and doing things because you're still like getting rid of toxins and stuff, so you're still on the upswing.
Yeah. All right, Meg asked, Jesse, if Chrissy Ann Designs was going to create a sticker kit in your honor, what would it look like or highlight?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think a sticker kit in my honor would remind me to carve out some time to do the things that like keep me sane and I love doing. So I need some guitar stickers. I need some computer stickers. I need like a couple of beer stickers, some things like that. Something with a dog on it for Layla, who's chomping down here on the floor. Not sure if you guys can hear her or not. Yeah, it would be the relaxing time sticker collection.
Okay, Serena said, what is your current favorite Layla story and your current favorite Odin story? I'll let you answer these, Jess.
Oh, can they be the same story, though? I love how they're, like, just this weird little, like, odd couple together who I continue to find, like, sitting in the window, holding paws, looking out at people as they walk by in the front. The story of the two of them being friends is ridiculously cute.
Kathy's question, where was your first date? She has two questions. The first one was, our first date was at a steakhouse in Napa called Trancas Steakhouse, still one of our favorites. And Kathy's other question is, what's the hardest part of the dialysis process? It's probably, for me, the last kind of 20 minutes or so when I have to keep pressure on the where the needle went in to keep it from, I can't even use my phone. I can't even like look at my phone. I'm just sitting there holding pressure. It's fucking boring. And at that point, I usually want to get up and like stretch my legs and go to the bathroom. And I can't because I have to sit there. I hate it so much.
There, I had to share the photo I caught of them the other day. I think for me, hard part about the dialysis process, kind of outside of any one particular step, it's a big lifestyle change, and we spent years talking about it and planning for it, and it still hit pretty hard to start digesting what it means to actually start doing at-home dialysis 5 days a week. And the things outside of like sticking Cindy with a couple of needles and performing treatment, there's prep and there's other things to manage. So it's pretty all encompassing. It's big. It's a big project.
Heather's question is, what's a buttonhole and how do you keep from bleeding everywhere with a hole in your arm? I'm assuming this involves Jed Clampett. So a buttonhole in dialysis terms is, the way they described it to me, which makes a lot of sense, is it's like when you get your ear pierced and you have to like, your ear has to kind of heal. But with a buttonhole, it's not going to totally heal because we don't want it to completely close up. And it's the same nurse does the putting the needle in over and over and over and over and over again until the scar tissue starts to form. And much like when you haven't worn an earring in a while, you know, when you put your earring post in, you have to kind of pop through. You sort of have to do the same thing. But what it does is it creates a really stable opening so that instead of having to use the needle in different spots up and down your arm, which is what some people do for dialysis, you can keep putting it in the same spot. But it requires the same person to establish it. So we had one nurse doing that for about 2 weeks before I started to learn how to do it. And it scabs over. So that's why it doesn't bleed everywhere, which is part of the reason I have to sit there for 10 minutes with my finger on it to keep it from bleeding.
And then Jed Clampett comes in that, right, this whole machine is pressurized while we're doing stuff. And Cindy has blood flow in the lines that we're connecting to. So anytime you need to change a connection from, like, say, priming the machine to connecting it to Cindy to start treatment, there are many sets of lines to remember to clamp. And the downsides of forgetting to clamp range from like dripping some saline on yourself, to shooting saline at yourself, to dripping some blood at yourself, to shooting blood across the room.
Which we have done. All of those things. So.
We have done all of those things. And then like the really important, all of those things are easy to fix, but the really important thing is to make sure it all stays like sterile and clean so that we're not putting bacteria into you while we're performing treatment.
All right. Megan asked, does dialysis help with your pain level? Would a transplant help with the pain or just overall well-being? Well, okay. So a lot of my pain comes from the fact that my kidneys are massive. I have polycystic kidney disease, so they fill up with cysts. They're about football sized. A lot of the pain I'm in comes from that. And the funny thing is, I've actually not really been super aware of how bad the pain has been for the last year or so. It's been, the kidney pain's there, but it had gotten overshadowed by the nausea and the exhaustion and the brain fog and all the symptoms that come with kidney failure. Now that those symptoms are starting to alleviate a little bit with dialysis, the pain is right back. So the only way to get rid of that pain for me is to remove my kidneys. That's not something that they'll do unless it gets really, really bad in terms of both pain and infection. Before I get a transplant. After I get a transplant, we are in talks about getting at least one, if not both of them removed. That will help with the pain. That'll get rid of it, allegedly. The transplant will also help with overall well-being, yeah. All right, next question from Cheryl. How are you both doing mentally apart and together? Which one? Who should go first on that one?
You go first. I'll field the question in chat from Andrea.
Okay. I'm doing good. I'll be real. Like, I went into this trying to set expectations for how much better I could feel. And getting my appetite back and starting to get some energy back mentally, it's putting me in a really good place. Overwhelm, yes, that's going on. But I think the exhilaration of starting to feel better is, I'm in that kind of honeymoon phase. I imagine it won't last forever. Jess, your turn.
I'm struggling for 2 characters on this. There we go. 200 characters for a reply is such a short one. So I'm doing better now. I was really stressed out during the first week of doing like our at-home dialysis training, and like I said, talking about it for I threw up on the first day, and I threw up on the day I tried to cannulate you. It has been overwhelming initially, and now there's like this kind of feeling of confidence, like we're ready to start it at home. It feels like we've graduated for real. Right now the machine is like making the dialysate we'll use tomorrow. We've started our process of doing this at home, and so I'm really satisfied to have made it this far, but it was some tough going to get here.
And we also, like, I'm seeing a new therapist. We're going to get Jesse seeing a therapist. And one of the other things that they recommended besides therapy at the dialysis clinic was to make sure to schedule days where I'll go to the clinic and just get my dialysis there. They recommend that on a semi-regular basis, mainly so that the caregiver can get a break from it and not have to worry about it for that day. So we do plan to do that to make sure that we're not overwhelming ourselves. It's so important. The reason we're doing it at home is so that we can kind of make it part of our lives without being the focal point of our lives. Right now, it's kind of the focal point of our lives because we're figuring it out. But as time goes on, the goal is to just make it another thing we have to do, like when Jesse has to change his pump side out for, his diabetes. So,
except this takes 3 hours.
Yeah. Shelly asked, how do you feel physically after each treatment? And is there a difference in how you feel between treatments, i.e. immediately before versus immediately after? Well, usually I feel just restless and hungry at the end of a treatment. And some of that's just because I've been sitting there and I can't move, right? But I would say that it's not a big difference between starting beforehand and then after, as much as it is kind of a gradual overall feeling of feeling better. Now, I imagine the longer it goes on, I'll get more in tune with it, especially if we have to take more than one day off at a time. But for right now, it's kind of like I'm climbing out of a pit, and I'm still like gradually, I don't even know if I've reached the point like this is how good I'm getting. And please don't get me wrong. I don't feel like 100% like I did before my kidneys started to fail at all, like way years ago. But it's still, the difference between how I was feeling a couple months ago and now is pretty intense. And I think it's continuing to get a little bit better and better. So yeah, it's not really, it's more like the more treatments I have, the better I'm starting to feel in general. But I think once I sort of hit that equilibrium, then I'll probably notice between treatments how I'm feeling. The font I'll just answer this one quick for Spartan. The font under my names is called California. Sandra's question is, what was the most surprising thing you each learned individually about the process and your relationship as a whole? Jess? Or do you want me to go first?
Question. Do you have a good answer already?
I think the most surprising thing for me is how empowered I felt when I learned how to cannulate myself and put the needle in myself. Like, when I went into it, I'm scared of needles. So I was like, fuck, I was never going to be able to do that. And then I went and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even care if Jesse learns because I'm doing it. And it's my body and I'm doing it to myself. And I feel like I took some level of ownership over the treatments rather than it was happening to me. I was administering dialysis to myself. And it seems small, but if you are somebody who is chronically ill and have had to get infusions or you've had to have a lot of procedures done, you maybe can understand how good that felt. Like I was fucking bouncing off the walls the first time I did it. And I was not expecting that. Us as a couple, I'm just continually grateful for how awesome. I knew Jesse was awesome, but there you get a whole new level of appreciation for somebody when they have your literal life in their hands.
Oh, I agree. I think we're a really good team with stuff like this, and that's not to say that we don't like disagree and argue about it, but we have managed to learn how to do dialysis and bring that home. Like I feel as a couple, I feel like it's just another thing that shows we can do pretty much anything we set our mind to. And I was really surprised at how directly this started to impact how you were feeling. Um, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but like I assumed we would have to be at this for a week or a couple of weeks before we'd start seeing a meaningful change in how you were feeling. And I've been really inspired to know that like it's kind of icky and like really stressful to do, but it matters. It works. And it's not just like kind of keeping you. It's not you're not surviving only, but like you're actually getting some benefit over how you felt a month ago, 2 months ago. You feel better today because your blood is much cleaner because we've been able to start doing this.
All right. Lacey's question. I'm curious how Jesse's journey with diabetes has helped him, or maybe not, to be empathetic and supportive of your journey with PKD. At least from what you share, he seems to be all in #husband goals. In addition to keeping you in my prayers for treatment recovery, I keep him there for strength and support in that context. Well, thank you, Lacey. I'm not going to answer this because this isn't a question for me. So
I don't know. How do you feel about that question, Cindy? Or is it like a really easy, like over the plate answer?
I think it's not even about you having diabetes as much as you care and you pay attention. And I think most importantly, and I think this goes for anybody who's going to be the partner of somebody with a chronic illness or mental illness for that matter, is when they tell you they're feeling a certain way, believe them. Don't like question them or I mean, if you're going to ask questions for clarification, yeah, but like don't make them feel people that you already get enough from the outside world, especially if your illness is invisible, of people not believing you, that having somebody who you know believes you, like that is like the first step on the way to the empathy. And you're very good at believing me when I don't feel well.
Well, yeah, like what am I going to do? Be like, well, my kidneys don't hurt. Like, I think for me, a place where I've drawn on my own experience in thinking about you with a chronic illness is that I know in the same way that I have times where I'm just not feeling well because of it and I need some time, or there are things that like I just know I don't understand. But to your point, like I believe you and try to help where I can, and also understand that I can't help all the time. And so that helps me sometimes when like you're not feeling well and I need to give you space because otherwise we're just going to irritate each other.
Yeah. We have enough of that as it is. Holly first asked if I could maybe think about recording my podcast while I'm on dialysis to bring it back, which is, I think, a great idea. And so, Holly, yeah, I think that's great. So that wraps up the Patreon questions. I'm going to go jump over. I know we've got some. I'm going to take a couple from the chat before we jump over to Instagram, because there's a couple that I think could be interesting to answer right now before I lose them. Just scrolling through to find them now.
Catch up. T-Bean, I see your question about my diabetes story. I'll interject here while Cindy collects a couple questions. I was diagnosed when I was in 6th grade. I think I was like 11. Mom's probably in the chat. She can correct me if I'm wrong. But I was a kid. It was at a time when long-acting insulin wasn't super prevalent. Insulin pumps were not a thing yet, or they were just becoming a thing, but they weren't commonplace. And so, I was a kid. My parents were awesome and supportive and helped not only like take good care of me when I couldn't do it for myself, like because I was a young person, but taught me how to help take care of myself as I got older and moved out onto my own. I'm super like an open book about this, so if you have more questions or you want to reach out, like please. I don't know how we would figure that out. Send Cindy a message.
Message or find him on Instagram.
Like, yeah, but like, good luck to you and your son. It's tough, but the good news is that there are lots of flexible options now. I'm a major advocate for using an insulin pump paired with a CGM, especially. It wasn't a tool that was available to me when I was newly diagnosed, but like I'm a numbers guy and I love seeing the line chart of what my blood sugar is doing so I can respond to it. I would just encourage you guys to become BFFs with your endocrinologist and find a new one if you don't like your endocrinologist, because they can help you find things that can be good lifestyle options and like good therapy choices for you guys.
All right, I got a question from Laura. When does Medicare kick in? So, the fun fact, it's one of the things that came out of the Nixon administration. One of the few things that you can have to get Medicare, which if you're not in the U.S., Medicare is the socialized healthcare system for the elderly in the United States. Normally kicks in if you've worked enough hours over the course of your working lifetime when you're 65. But if you are under 65, one of the few circumstances that you can qualify for Medicare for is if you are in end-stage renal disease, because it is so cost prohibitive to go through dialysis or transplant. So if you are getting regular in-center dialysis, your Medicare will kick in for you in the 4th month of getting dialysis. If you are getting a transplant, and it's a preemptive transplant and you haven't done dialysis yet, Medicare kicks in the first day of the month you get your transplant. And if you are doing home dialysis, whichever kind of home dialysis you're getting, Medicare will retroactively kick in on the first day you start dialysis, when you start your training. So when I get Medicare set up, it'll retroactively kick in to back in January 9th, I think it was, when we started training. Doing home dialysis. So yeah, that's how that kind of works. I'm not an expert. Trust me when I tell you I'm not an expert, but I know that much. All right. There was a couple other questions that I saw. How Inspired said, is or has your swelling improved, or is it improving? Yes, it hasn't been that bad lately. So there isn't a huge improvement to be seen, but it is improving. I imagine it's going to get worse as time goes on, again, as I stop peeing as much. Okay, Audrey said, I don't know if it's been asked, but are you a good candidate to get a donated kidney? Yes, and I am on the transplant list. And if you're at all interested in being a living donor, let us know, and I will get you the information. Jesse answered Andrea's questions. Elizabeth asked, if you only had one kidney transplanted and kept your other transplant, how would that affect things? So, fun fact, kidneys can actually adapt to how, like, if that's why people can survive with one kidney. That's why people can be a living donor. Your kidney will adapt and start doing better if it's healthy. So my grandma and my sister my grandma passed away, but when she had her transplant and my sister with her current transplant, they both have PKD. They both still had both of their kidneys and they had their transplant kidney. And those PKD kidneys were doing whatever little bit of amount of work they could do. But for some PKD patients, the kidneys are so big and uncomfortable, they'll remove them. But the transplant kidney will just continue doing its thing and you can exist just fine with that one healthy kidney. Pam asked, do the nurses come to your home to check as well once in a while? No, they could, but we could just call them and we have 24-hour support both from our clinic and from the company that makes the machines. All right, I'm going to jump back over to Instagram for a bit. So Instagram, what is your dream destination for a honeymoon or vacation? Our
Sunny.
10th anniversary is coming up this year. We still haven't gone on a honeymoon yet. Yeah.
Cindy has one very specific requirement for our
Yeah.
honeymoon. It has to have a place with a swim-up bar. Doesn't have to be a pool. It could be on the ocean. She's very flexible. Swim-up bar.
Yeah. And all-inclusive, so I don't have to worry about shit. What are your main World of Warcraft characters? Mine is a druid, a Tauren druid for the Horde, because I just have tried playing with alts and I just never care.
The past few expansions have been hard to play alternate characters onto. There's so many like chores you got to do. I play a paladin, and over my whole time playing World of Warcraft, I've like dabbled with other classes, but that's the one I always keep coming back to. And I am currently healing mostly and having a lot of fun with that.
What do or did you do to distract yourselves during treatment? So I'm hoping that being at home is going to make this a little easier. We're hoping to get a TV in that room so I can watch TV, but like, because the TV in our room at the hospital was broken, I played so much Candy Crush.
Crushed so much candy.
Because I can do it with one hand. And I read a lot of Reddit.
Yeah, I basically consumed the entire internet. I'm done for the next 3 or 4 months. Got a couple of naps. That was great.
Okay, somebody asked if the cats can be on the live, and Layla, I have no idea. The cats aren't down here with me, so I have no idea if anybody's in there with you right now.
Shit. Odin was here, but I don't see him anymore.
Lou is currently hiding under the bed because he's scared of the dialysis machine. Speaking of Lou, does Lucy like the other pets? Whenever he's in your videos, he always seems to be alone. He likes them both just fine, but he also he prefers his personal space. So he will play with Odin.
Kind of introverted.
Yeah.
And like he gets lots of playtime in with Odin at approximately 4 a.m. And then like they pretty much sleep around the house all day, but nearby one another frequently. If I come downstairs in the morning and like Layla is still a big lump on the bed, Lou will like follow me around. So I think he's just more of like a one-on-one kind of creature.
All right. What is something that makes you proud of each other? I am proud of Jesse for taking all of this not in stride. It's not been easy, but taking it in a way that he's been both communicative when things are hard and also really like leaning into learning the things he needs to learn despite being uncomfortable. And knowing how uncomfortable some of this has made him, seeing how much he has been able to navigate it without completely losing his shit, I've been very proud of him for that.
I'm proud of you for like not getting super down and discouraged on this stuff. And like, I think it would be really easy to take this as a kind of discouraging, like, now here's a thing we have to do 5 times a week until who knows when, and be very down about it. But you've managed to like bring positivity into learning how to do dialysis, which is probably not something we ever thought we'd say about it, but like there's a lot of benefit to this, especially compared with the kind of alternative of like doing it at the hospital, even with our nurses. They were awesome, and it's close and convenient to get there, but like there's a lot of upside to being able to do it at home. And you've helped keep us focused on those things.
Um, as a couple that both have an illness, how do you manage bad days together? This is interesting because there have been some times where his blood sugar has been all over the place and I'm having a really bad day, and then the kids need something. We are like both, I think, we both recognize that there are times when one of us has to like push through, and it's not even like a discussion. It's just sort of like in a situation, whoever has kind of more to give will be the one to sort of just volunteer and go for it. And when it can't be him, it really can't be him. And when it can't be me, it really can't be me. And usually one of us can pull it together enough to handle whatever needs to happen, but we give each other space. We'll order food, we'll let the house fall apart.
Yeah,
And
it's a
no
great
big,
time for
yeah.
DoorDash. And for like, if the sink gets full of dishes, it's really not that big a deal. As long as like somebody lets the dog out, we're pretty good.
All right. Jess, how has your job handled the transition to Cindy's dialysis?
Ooh, so far they've been awesome. I turned off my work email and calendar and Slack notifications when I started my leave, and like some of my work friends have reached out and been thoughtful and asked how we're doing. But other than that, nobody has talked to me, which is great. That
Yeah.
is respect from my coworkers, and that's like amazing.
Ask us again when we get started and he goes
Yeah,
back to work.
I go back to work in the back half of next week. I'm sure things will go fine. Work is always crazy, but I've got a team of people who like are really thoughtful, caring humans, and so I'm sure things will go well.
um, what's your favorite album?
My favorite album?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is a question that I always read.
And here goes the rest of the hour. There we go. I'm just kidding.
So can't pick just one, right? So I always reframe this question into like, what are you into like right now? But Spotify tells me last year my favorite new artist was this guy named Corey Henry, and he released an album called Operation Funk. And so for the last year, I'm going to say that is my favorite new album that has come out. It is great music, kind of upbeat and dancey. How have I described him to people? He's like kind of funky like Prince, but like a little less weird. So I think you should all check out Corey Henry. And kind of in a similar vein to John Batiste, like he's got a lot of different music. So, you know, if you don't like one album, like bounce to a different one, you'll probably find something you like.
And I'll just throw in mine. Probably one of my favorite albums of all time is The Dance by Fleetwood Mac. Like, I love a lot of albums, but that one from start to finish is absolutely one of my favorites. We kind of already went over this one, but somebody asked about what type 1 type 1 diabetes therapy are you doing? They said they're type 1 and they have a Tandem and Dexcom set up, and I'm pretty sure that's the same thing you have.
I've got.
Yeah.
Yep. So I've got the Tandem T-Slim 2 and the Dexcom G6. In tandem, pun intended, like they work so well together. I was like thinking earlier on the stream, like, is there one of them that's more of a game changer than the other? And like, I think the magic really comes from having both of them. It's like getting the data on what your blood sugar is actually doing, and then having the tools to try to respond to it in some way with an insulin pump is, it's really great. That said, if anybody is a diabetic and thinking about, is pump therapy for me or is it not, it's a little weird to like wear something and be attached to it. But it was a game changer when I started using an insulin pump in 2004, and getting onto the CGM 4 years ago or so was like an equally gigantic game changer for my therapy. My A1Cs have been better. My last A1C was 6.8. And I know that using this pump and my CGM together has helped me take better care of myself to get there.
I'm going to grab one from the chat. Karen asked, does the routine of being on dialysis make it easier to be gentle with yourself when it comes to productivity or hustle culture? I have had to really be very specific with what I can get done for work because Jesse's on leave. I'm not. And so, because I work for myself, it doesn't really...
Your boss is a real
My boss
bitch.
sucks. And so having to be very, very specific about what I'm going to try and get done in any given day and keeping it very low in terms of the amount of stuff has been very helpful. But like we said earlier with his other answer about work, it's hard to know just yet because we were in the process of training, which in and of itself is kind of exhausting. We need to kind of get into the swing of it at home before we can really know how it's going to impact our day-to-day lives, especially when it comes to work. I don't know if you have any other answers for that, Jess, but I feel like that's kind of...
No, we are going to be figuring out as we go, for sure. And like
for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. It's gotten us this far.
All right. Another question. How are the kids doing about my dialysis? They're fine. Honestly, we've been checking in with them. RJ is very not interested in most of it because it's kind of, he's glad I'm getting it, but it's not something he is super interested in helping with because he's been at school when we're working on it. But Sunny, we actually have a job. Sunny's going to help us get supplies together each week. Something that they can do to help that's not going to put me in danger because they're not trained to do certain things. But they are both very supportive and they're also both very understanding of how, like, RJ's been walking to school even in cold weather, like really cold weather. He's been walking to school and shit because he knows he needs to right now. Like, they've both just been very accommodating. Excuse me. I don't know if you have anything to add to that or not.
Well, they've just been kind of a little extra sweet in general. It's like they know their survival might depend on it.
All right. Are you, I guess this is for you, Jess. Are you okay with all of my eggplant chat?
I don't know, you should hear how much she talks about my eggplant. Yeah, no, the eggplant chat does not bother me.
Somebody asked, why do you have dialysis? My two brothers have all ports and are 21, both on dialysis. Like I said, I have polycystic kidney disease, which is genetic. And I was diagnosed when I was 22. I'm 43 now, and I just went to kidney failure this past year. How did you meet?
We met playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah. And he came up to visit.
How did we meet in person?
We met in person because I was playing World of Warcraft with a group of people who worked night crew at the same Trader Joe's I did. We would all get off work and go play. Jess was in Southern California working at the studios because he went to college to be a recording engineer. And so he was on the same time we were and wound up meeting one of my group of friends. And we all started playing together. And then he thought we were cool. So he wanted to visit us in Napa, meet the whole group of us. And then he knew he wanted to get out of LA. So he decided to move up to Napa. And then after he moved up, he asked me out. And that was when we started dating.
And the rest is history.
Magic. I just lost my questions. I'll grab another one from the chat here. Laura asked, do you have your kids have PKD? What is the likelihood of them having PKD? So currently we don't know. We're keeping an eye on their blood pressure and everything else. Genetic testing is not covered by insurance yet. So it's an ultrasound, which Sunny is probably going to get sometime in the next year. But currently their blood pressure and everything is fine. They each have a 50% chance of getting it because it is a 50% chance. So my dad had it. I have two sisters. Of the three of us, two of us have it. How did you introduce Jesse to your kids? We went on a trip to San Francisco. There was a group of us going, and the kids went with.
That was fun.
Yeah.
What do you miss? Pictures of Sunny and RJ from that the other day. They were so little.
Yeah. What do you miss most about Napa, Jess? I know what you miss. I know what you miss.
Ooh, do you want to
Miss
guess?
most.
It's the Ordinary Sons.
Yeah, he misses his band.
And
He misses his band.
a really close second would be like a proper taco truck experience. But
Yeah, but he
it's the
misses his
band
band.
first.
What do I miss most about Napa? There's a restaurant in Calistoga called Sushi Mambo. Yum, yum, yum. All right. Another question about balancing dialysis with jobs. We're just going to move past. We've already answered that we don't really know yet. Someone said that there's no question from Scotland, but they think you're an awesome husband and stepdad. So
Thank you.
says, I know we see the highlight reel, and I'm sure you want to strangle each other sometimes, but love is wanting to kill them, but knowing you would miss them, so you won't. That sums up our marriage. Another person just says, not a question, but you guys are amazing. And then here's one. What are you most excited about, and what are you most nervous about bringing dialysis home?
Ooh, okay. I am excited to not have to leave the house quite so early in order to do dialysis and kind of take the inflexible parts of it out of the routine. We could modify our schedule if needed, but when you're going in to do it at the hospital, you've got folks who are planning to be there to do it with you, so you don't have that benefit. I think thing I might be most nervous about, besides like the cats messing with things, I'm like a little worried it's going to make us even more homebodies than we are now. Like,
Or like hermits.
When it's easy to go places, we don't always. So when there's lots more kind of stuff to manage, I hope that we'll still make time to get out of the house. Hopefully, it'll maybe reduce the stress because we're like, well, going for like 3 days would be so much work. We can just do it overnight. And maybe we'll do more of that stuff.
I'm excited about my recliner because the dialysis chairs at the hospital are not comfortable and my ass hurts so much after sitting there. I'm excited about my recliner. That is my current excitement about bringing dialysis home, is both my recliner and being able to wear PJs and not have to worry about seeing people while I'm in it. Most nervous, I'm with Jesse. I'm kind of nervous about the cats. I think I'm really nervous about,
just a little.
Yeah, what I'm really nervous about, I think, is fucking our carpet up. Now, Jen Leeson got us a splat mat off of the wish list, so we have that. But I kind of had a geyser the other day out of my arm when things happened, and
that's overselling.
I'm worried about my carpet. It seems so practical, but honestly, maybe those kinds of things like yay, recliner, boo, carpet is my way of coping with like the bigger questions of like, will I get a staph infection? You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not worried about that. I'm going to worry about my carpet.
Well, aside from like taking your time and following aseptic protocol, there's not as much you can do about the staph infection, but you can sure as hell worry about like covering up stuff so you don't get blood on it.
Are you going to give us a tour of the room once it's all set up? Yes.
The room's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it is. Will you draw your own blood, or will a nurse come out for that? We will be doing all the labs at home and then mailing them off. Jesse just practiced last Thursday on bringing the blood. Now, luckily, because we don't like put an extra needle hole in, we just use the already existing setup.
Really easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. One of the things they sent us home with is a centrifuge so that we can spin the blood before we stick it in they gave us the little cold packs and all the mailing label. We have all the things. So, yeah.
Yeah, we draw the labs using the same lines that we connect her to the dialysis machine with. And there's a little adapter that's like the needle. So you pop the same kind of vacuum sealed tubes onto it and they fill up and you go to the next one.
How How will you get meds that are given during dialysis? Again, we pick up the meds. I do get one med already. I don't need iron because I'm not anemic, but I do have a med called heparin, which is, it's a blood thinner so that it keeps it from clotting while we're doing. Now we want it to clot after dialysis when I've got my hand, when we're, I'm disconnected and we want it to like scab over. The heparin, the dose that they give me is enough to keep the blood running smoothly through the machine without starting to coagulate, while still wearing off fast enough so that I can clot at the end of the session. And again, like drawing blood, I get my needles in, and then before we hook up to the machine, Jesse just injects the medication, and we just pick it up from our pharmacy. What have you learned about each other? We've talked about that one. Did you find a suitable Jed Clampett pick? We did, but I don't have it available to show you. My friend Jen, the same one who bought the splat mat, she made a pretty funny one, which I think we're going to frame at some point. All right, that's all the Instagram questions. So I'm going to start taking questions from the chat for the next 10 minutes or so. And I'm just going to scroll a little bit up because we have been answering them as we go along. What ages were RJ and Sunny when y'all met? They were 3 and 5, and they are currently 16, almost 17, and 19. What is the color on your nails? I totally forgot. I know it's OPI. I totally forgot to check. Am I active?
It's kidney brown.
Right. It's kidney brown. In honor of coming home this week. I should just get some little bubbles put on it to represent PKD kidneys. Are you actively on the transplant waiting list? Yes, I have been on the transplant waiting list for about 4.5 years now. Will you restock your Amazon wish list as needs come up? Yes. Okay, I'm scrolling. Am I restricted on how much you can lift? Yes, I cannot lift anything over 20 pounds with my fistula arm. Because aside from we keep the fistula comfortable, I also need to make sure to not loosen the scabs.
But let's be really honest, though. Even before you had a fistula in place, like with your kidneys being big, you should.
Yeah, I have to be real careful.
Much more than that, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's not really a new restriction for you.
Another question here. What has been the hardest thing to learn? Does it involve math? There is a lot of math, and I have recused myself from as much of the math as possible. I'm cannulating. I'm sticking the needles in. Jesse gets to handle the math.
You cannulate, I calculate, we meet in the
There we go. Cannulating and calculating.
I don't think any of that stuff was necessarily hard. There's just a lot of important, straightforward things to learn. And if you try to learn them all at once, you'll get them mixed up.
Karen asked if we have matching lab coats. No, but that's a really good idea. And TB said we're going to need a gallon-sized Sharps container. Funny fact, somebody off of the list did purchase us 2 Sharps containers, so we're already there. Jesse, how long have you had that long, glorious mane? I'm jealous of your hair.
You're catching up on the chat. I caught up while you were answering a question.
Yeah.
But I haven't had my hair cut since right before Thanksgiving 2019. It was pre-pandemic, and my ends are fried. I desperately need a haircut.
Did we come up with a name for the machine? Yes, RJ named the machine. He named it Conky after the robot. If you ever watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, Conky was the robot that spit out the word of the day, where when you hear somebody say it, everybody screams. So he suggested that, and I was like, ooh, that's maybe a good idea. And then Sunny suggested that if we name the machine Conky, that we name the chair Cherry. And I was like, okay, now we know that this is it's Pee-wee's Playhouse. That's the dialysis room. Yeah. Okay. Stormy asked, how is it going in the same spot every day? I know I went to give plasma. It gets a little weird to do it back to back. Well, we talked about the buttonhole earlier. It's basically, like I said, it's like putting an earring in more than sticking a needle in the same spot every day. I was not the one who established it, so I have no idea what it felt like to originally put it in. But for me, as long as once I get the needle like in there, I can feel the tunnel and just slide it right in. The interesting thing is that I think it's easier for me because I can not only feel physically what I'm putting in, but I also feel the other side of it. So if like Jesse was doing it, all he could feel was the resistance from his end, whereas I can feel if it hurts. I can feel if it feels wrong or not. And that's, again, it feels a lot more natural for me to be doing it. Do you have a patient and or caregiver support group? No, but I was recommended a website that has that for specifically home dialysis people. So I got to take a look at that and dig in. I just haven't done that yet. Your sister's PD machine was called Dermot. Your son's insulin pump is Forrest Pump. Yeah, Pee-Pee's Playhouse, Emma. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So are there any other questions before we bounce out of here? I might have missed them in the chat because I was kind of scrolling through. But just wait for a second to see if any more pop up. But in the meantime, I don't know about Jess, but I am very grateful for all of you. I am grateful that this is the work I do so that I can, despite the fact that my boss is a dick, I can work from home and not have to, if I was still working at grocery stores, I would be fucked right now. So I appreciate you all for that and for all the support you've given, both in terms of my patrons and in terms of the people who fulfilled things off the wish list, and those of you who couldn't do either of those things, can't do either of those things, but you just show up even if you don't say anything in the chat. I'm so grateful for you as a community, for your support, just all of the different support you've given us. And for those of you who are dealing with your own chronic illnesses, I hope that us talking about our experience can help you feel a little less alone, because I know how isolating it can be. So, thank you. Thank you.
Well put. Lightning round from the chat. You ready?
Yes. Lightning round.
Okay.
So throw your lightning round questions in. Lightning round.
No, we've got some.
Okay.
How's your brain fog and exhaustion today?
Better. Still there, but it's better.
Is there anything you need to do to keep your fistula healthy?
Don't sleep on it. Or put like jewelry on this arm, or wear my purse on this. Basically, I have to treat this arm like a precious little snowflake. And it sucks because I'm a side sleeper. Now I'm only allowed to sleep on one side.
Any changes in your diet now that you've started dialysis?
Not much yet, but it will come. The dietitian is happy with me right now, though, but I have a monthly check-in with all my people. And so, yeah. Stay tuned.
Okay. Last question. What's for dinner?
From you? Or is RJ in the chat? I already told you what we're making for dinner. I'm making breakfast for dinner.
I know. I'm just being a dick.
All right. Anyway. Yes, it's wonderful to talk to all of you. Oh, any food cravings, Pam? Honestly, In-N-Out Burger. Goddamn, if In-N-Out Burger. And the line is always so heinous, so Jesse's like, but fucking double slaps when you're getting your appetite back. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, what is your favorite thing about having Jesse home? He is so relaxed for the most part.
Oh man. So I got an alert on my Apple Watch the other day, like yesterday or Friday, that my resting heart rate has dropped by like over 10% since I started going to dialysis school and took 5 weeks off from work. So it is nice to be home. Even though we're focusing on like really important stuff.
Yeah. Katie asked, what am I going to miss about not going to Go Wild this year besides not meeting you in person? Well, that's the biggest one, Katie, is not meeting you in person. But honestly, it's just, I'm going to miss seeing all my peeps. Both my peeps I see every time and the peeps I haven't met yet. Last year was kind of like that too, because I was only there very briefly because of COVID and I didn't want to get sick. So, yeah. But it's also, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Oh, do we make inappropriate jokes about the word fistula? No, because I don't want people to confuse my AV fistula for an anal fistula. I'm not
moved on
prepared.
From that in like 2019, guys.
Yeah. Someone asked if RJ is still wearing shorts. Yes, he is wearing pants when it's really cold, but 20 degrees seems to be his limit for wearing shorts.
No,
And then
that's
what did
my
we?
limit for letting him wear shorts.
Yeah. And then what did you get at the melting pot? We got the Wisconsin cheddar. We got the Coca meat method, and I got filet mignon, garlic pepper steak, and shrimps. And Jesse got the big steak meal, and then I don't remember what the kids got. And then we got the yin yang chocolate dessert with the dark and the white chocolate. It was chef's kiss. Melting pot, 10 out of 10.
I think the even more surprising than how damn good the food was like the pace and the vibe in the place was really nice. Like we were there for almost like 2 hours eating dinner, and not one of us ever felt bored or it was nice. It was nice and relaxing.
All right. And then the last thing I'll just answer, Kat. I could Skype my Go Wild friends. Oh, what's the fancy sushi hibachi place you guys like? The fancy sushi place here in Denver that we like is Sushi Den. It's not hibachi, though. The only hibachi place I've been to is Benihana. No, wait, that's not true. We went to one in Bend.
And the place in Bend.
Yeah, we went to a place in Bend, but I don't remember what it was called. It was good, though. Anyway, okay, we're going to get going. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll do a live plan with me next week at the same time, and maybe one of these days we'll get Jesse to do a plan with me. But now that we've gotten him on here, it's going to be all the time now. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, and we will see you later. Have a wonderful day. And yeah, bye.